Welcome to the video on how to perform the purl stitch. The purl stitch is one of the two most basic stitches in knitting. After watching this video, you will be able to practice the purl stitch technique on your own knitting needles. As you can see, one of my needles already has some knitting work on it. Before we dive into creating our first purl stitch, I want to quickly review the basics of the stockinette stitch pattern. Here are a few rows of stockinette stitch. In stockinette pattern, you alternate between knitting and purling. This means one side of the work was stitched using the knit stitch technique and one side was stitched using the purl technique. The side with the V-shaped pattern and the working yarn facing towards the back of the work is referred to as the right side. The other side with the wavy ridges and the working yarn pointing towards the front is called the wrong side. In stockinette, we knit on the right side and we purl on the wrong side. So on my left hand needle, the last row was done using the knit stitch. I know this because 1, when I take my left hand needle as if I'm ready to knit, I'm looking at the wrong side of the work, and 2, the working yarn is directed towards the front. In other words, I know that I need to purl this row. Unlike the knit stitch, you want to keep the working yarn in the front of the work. So let's take our other needle. Insert your right hand needle into the front of the first stitch on your left hand needle. Keep a bit of tension by gently pulling on the working yarn. Now wrap the working yarn around your right hand needle by going over and then under. You have essentially created the loop that will become the first purl stitch. Slide the right hand needle down and pull the loop back through the stitch on the left hand needle. Then release or slide that stitch right off the left hand needle. Gently pull on the working yarn and you have created your first purl stitch. Let's do that one more time. Once again, make sure that the working yarn is in the front, not in the back. Insert your right hand needle into the front of the next stitch on your left hand needle. Remember to give your working yarn a gentle pull at all times. Not too tight, but just a bit to avoid any big gaps or loose stitches in your knitting. And then wrap your working yarn over and then under. And then slide your needle down and pull that loop back through the stitch on your left hand needle and then slide that stitch right off. And as you can see, there are now 2 purl stitches on my right hand needle. Let's go ahead and finish purling the remaining stitches. Here are the completed purl stitches on my knitting needle. I hope you found this video tutorial on how to perform the purl stitch helpful. Good luck with practicing the purl stitch technique on your own knitting needles.